Hey guys, it's Savina Monet. I am a collage artist and freelance graphic designer. Today we are going to be learning about digital collage on the iPad using Photoshop. By the end of the class, you'll be able to create your very own surreal landscape right from your tablet. So grab your iPads, fire up Photoshop, and let's get started. Of course, when you're first starting out, one of my biggest questions is, where do you find all of your resources? Where do you source your materials for digital collage? So luckily, I was prepared this time. I created a quick blog post sharing 8 of my favorite sites that I use to find collage material. I will also link it down in the description. Feel free to browse through those to find some really juicy pics. For this video, what I'm going to do is just highlight 2 of my favorite sources. The first one being this vintage National Geographic Tumblr. This person, bless their heart, they took the time to scan in the photos from vintage National Geographic magazines. And as you can see, they are beautiful, rich in color, and they're great, especially if you want kind of that grainy vintage feel. So be sure to browse that. And of course, one of my other favorites is the stock photography website Unsplash. They have literally millions of photos. So if you can't find something here, good luck. So feel free to browse. As you're browsing, keep in mind the aesthetic you want to set, what sort of surreal landscape do you want to use. One of my favorite things to look for when thinking of a surreal landscape is to create portals. So I'll look at things like doorways, I'll look at archways, any sort of entryways that I could use to illustrate this surreal world on the other side of it. So when you first open up Photoshop, if you've used Photoshop on the desktop before, it's going to look pretty similar in terms of the layout. We also have some new icons up here for settings, and this is to check whether or not you're connected online to the Adobe Creative Cloud. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to the bottom left and hit Create New. I want my post to be pretty vertical, so I'm going to choose 1080 by 1350 with a 300 ppi resolution. Click Create. So this will give you your blank document. Again, the workspace looks pretty close to the desktop version of Photoshop. On the left hand side we have our tools. Right here is where you can import external photos, files, anything from your Adobe Cloud library. And then on the right hand side, we're going to have the layer styles, the layers window, and a couple of other tools that we can use. So once we have all of our materials gathered and our canvas open, we're going to start importing photos into the canvas so that we can start building this out. So I'm going to click over here to this photo icon and click Files. Now I saved my files on my iPad, but depending on where you saved your files, they could be in the Downloads folder or in your actual photo stream if you took a screenshot. So remember to mark down where they were, or else you're going to go on a wild goose hunt. I'm going to select this washing machine that I found from Unsplash. I kind of mentioned earlier I like to play with portals, so I thought this would be really fun with the little windows into each of the laundry mat entries. So now I'm gonna go ahead and transform this so that it fills up the canvas. And there's a few ways that I could do this. I can drag one end, which will scale this proportionally. I can also use my fingers to do something similar, kind of like a zoom. But what I want to do is I want to scale it centered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click over this button here. And this button's going to act like your Shift and your Alt key. So as you can see, as I drag down, it says Scale Centered. So now I can just drag one of the corners and it will fill up my screen. Looks like I kind of skewed it off, so there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring it down so I can hide this basket here. So I'm going to click my Move tool. And again, I'm going to click this little transparent button so the move is constrained. Drag, and now you can see it can just move up and down, not left or right, diagonal, whatever. And then of course, if you move and it goes crazy, not a problem. You have your undo and redo buttons here. But also if you'd like, you can use 2 fingers for undo, 3 fingers for redo. So I'm just going to undo that so I'm back where I want, and I'll move this into position. Great. So now we have everything in position. I'm going to start masking out the glass here to make the actual little holes for my portal. So masking on the iPad is similar to masking on Photoshop on the desktop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to click over here on my lasso tool. If I click once, it's going to select whatever tool is there. If I hold, it'll allow me different options. So what I want is I just want the circle lasso tool. And I'm going to hold this to constrain my shape so I get a perfect circle. Now you can see my marching ants are way outside from where I want it to be. So a cool trick that Adobe included with the Photoshop on the iPad is the ability to transform your selection. So you can actually move this around and even scale it down some so that you can get the perfect selection. Now you see your marching ants are inside the window, exactly where I want them. The only thing that I want to do is I want to deselect this little handle to add a little bit of depth into my photo. So I'm going to click over here, the rectangle, and I'm going to subtract from my selection. So now I can kind of zoom in. And then you can see it subtracts. And now when I go over and click my mask, well, I'm going to invert the mask. You can see it is transparent underneath now. So I'm just going to go ahead and mask out the other little portals. Again, with this one, it's a little asymmetrical, so I can go in and transform it and make it as wonky looking as I like until it fits perfectly. Now I'm going to go to the mask with my black. I'm going to fill, and I'll get rid of it. And we have one more down here. Oops. Looks like it's bigger than I thought. Click the mask, fill, black. Perfect. So now that we have our mask created, we can start importing the other images to put underneath. So I'm going to click my little photo icon again, and I'm going to select this image. Some kids playing around in the neighborhood. I think it's very fun. I'm going to expand it some so you could see them. And then we have these snow alps. I like the idea of using totally different landscapes. That way you can feel like there are multiple universes going on in here. So I'm going to drag it over. And then finally, I have my grid iron traffic. Because even in infinite universes, can't escape traffic. Great. Now that we have all of our images in, I want to mask out part of the washer machine so it looks like some of the images are coming outside and breaking that barrier of reality. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my washer machine. I'm going to zoom in, probably like that. And I'm going to click over here to the layer properties window. And I'm going to lower the opacity so I can see the sidewalk underneath. So that way I know where I'm masking. And so now I'm going to select my freehand lasso tool. And at the moment, Adobe does not have any other selection tools or smart selection tools. So we're just gonna do the best we can with our hands. If you're really, really aching to get a straight line, then I would recommend using a ruler, a book, anything that you can put on your iPad and draw along. For now. So now I'm going to click my fill tool and click the black, deselect. I can go back to layer properties, bump up the opacity, and then I can kind of see. I grabbed a little bit too much, you see the grass there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush tool, grab a white and a soft round. If you need to change your brush, hold down on the brush. You'll see your entire library. So soft round, 11, that's good. And I'm actually going to paint the edge right here so that it can kind of clean up the edges. Looks a little bit better. Awesome. And then I want to do it one other spot. I thought it would be really fun if we could see their legs over the bar. So I'm going to turn this back down. Grab my freehand lasso tool. And I'm going to start selecting where I would like their feet to come through and the bar to not appear. I'm just going to close this for space, and here we go. Don't be afraid to put your hand on the iPad. It is very durable. I'm going to subtract from my selection just to clean it up some. And then grab my black, make sure black is filled for the fill, and we're going to fill. Layer properties all the way up. If we deselect, now you can see we have the road coming out, the guys going up, starting to give it a little bit more depth. Another way we can further emphasize this is by extending the cables that come out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new layer, zoom all the way in. I'm going to grab my eyedropper. and I want to sample the color of the cables here. So now with my brush, I'm probably going to do a hard round for this and put it way down, probably to about 5. And I'm just going to draw the lines. I'm just going to extend them outside of the original boundary. Oh, looks like 5 is a little bit too big. Let's go down maybe 2. Extend this. You can't really see it there, but I know you'll be able to see this. Right now, Adobe does not have a canvas rotation tool. They are working on that for the next update, and this is as of May 2020. So for now, we're going to old school, just move our tablet, and I'm going to draw the line. Don't worry about making it perfect. Once you zoom out, you won't be able to see much. And there you have it. We can close out the layer window here. And now the final step is to export it. So clicking this button, you can either quick export, which will just take a resolution snapshot and send it to whomever, or you can publish and export, and that you can actually select the PNG, JPEG, PSD, TIFF file. You can mess around with the file size, the quality, and then export. It'll have you choose Messenger, AirDrop, Mail, all of the regular goodies. If you have any questions, concerns, feel free to drop it down in the discussion tab and I'll check it as soon as I can. Until then, happy collaging!